We're taking it old school with this one. Timestamp in the description. Customize your viewing experience should you buy a Nokia 6 or a Moto G5 Plus. That video's coming up right now. Let's go. So, what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology, and welcome to Should You Buy the Nokia 6 or the Moto G5 Plus. Now, I've been getting the request to make this video quite a bit, so we're going to do an in-depth review between these two. I'm going to share my experiences with you to help you decide which one of these is the better mobile for you. So there's a timestamp down below in the description area. What that is where you can go ahead and find the things that matter the most to you, because this is going to be broken down into several sections. But let's go ahead and boot these guys up really quickly here while we talk about the specifications of the devices. We got to get this out of the way immediately. These specifications on the Nokia 6 includes a 5.5 inch Full HD panel. This is 1920 by 1080p here on the Nokia 6, and it looks fabulous. On the rear, we have a 16 megapixel camera here with a flash. It shoots in up to 1080p video recording. Now, the Nokia 6 is going to give you 3 gigs of RAM and a Snapdragon 430. Now, you can get 4 gigs of RAM on the Nokia depending on which model you go with, which market you're in. And you do get a 3000 milliamp hour battery here on the Nokia 6. So those are pretty much the main specifications I want to talk about with the Nokia 6 here. We'll talk a little bit more as we talk further into the video and I discuss my experiences. Over here for the Moto G5 Plus, you do get a 5.2 inch panel. So it's slightly smaller than the Nokia screen, a little smaller than, other plus size phones in the market here, but it is a 19 by 20 by 1080p panel as well. This on the rear has a 12 megapixel camera and 2160p 4K video recording. So it does have 4K video recording over the Nokia 6. My model has 2 gigs of RAM in this Moto G5 Plus, but you can get this all the way up to 4 gigs of RAM. And all Moto G5 Pluses come with a Snapdragon 625 CPU, which is definitely more powerful than the 430 here, but we'll talk about that more later. 3000 milliamp hour battery in the Moto G5 Plus. This is non-removable. Okay, guys, so let's talk about the build in the body of the Nokia 6 to begin. So the Nokia 6 does weigh right around 169 grams, or that is about 5.96 ounces. It's about 6 ounces in the phone. And if you don't know those measurements and stuff like that, basically what that means is you have a pretty solidly light phone for this size of a phone. 6 ounces is not a lot to carry around, especially considering that this is 5.5 ounces on a 4 or a 5.2 inch display. So you get almost the same weight with a larger display here on a Nokia 6. Also, this body is about 7.9 millimeters thick. So by comparison, the iPhone 6, for example, is 6.9 millimeters thick. This is about a millimeter thicker than that. So it does have a little bit of thickness to it. It's not so thick that it's going to be like, wow, that phone is fat over there or something like that. But you definitely feel it in the hand. It's got a nice balance of weight and it feels quite good in the hand. Now, the rear is an aluminum body, and I mean aluminum all the way around. Unlike the Moto G5 Plus, which we'll talk about in a little bit, this thing is aluminum all the way around. It does have chamfered edges, which I actually already chipped right there, as you can see. So, this paint will chip if you don't rock the Nokia 6 with a case. But overall, I think it's a classy, clean looking device on the build. The power button is located on the right, and the volume rockers are over on the right as well. On the left, we do have our SIM card tray, and you can see up here some antenna lines nicely hidden. Nice job, Nokia. And this kind of gives you a continuous aluminum body, antenna lines at the bottom and top as well. I don't really like this writing here on the phone, but there's nothing you can do about that. That's legal stuff. So on the front, you do have this little kind of skinny home button. And you do have the multitasking switch key as well as the back key. But overall, this build and body of this phone is quite premium, and it feels easily like a $500-600 smartphone. I'm going to say close. This feels kind of like a OnePlus 5 feels like in terms of the hand feel. Like you get that value, you get that premium feel for a low price point. This reminds me a lot of the OnePlus series of devices, but it's pretty unique in its square design. You don't see this square design on a lot of smartphones on the market. So overall, I think the Nokia 6 has a great build, and I'm going to give it a solid 9 out of 10 in the build department. I'm going to take off a couple of points for the easy chipping that happens on the paint. So getting into the Moto G5 Plus, this phone right here is about 7.7 millimeters thick. So it is not as thick as the Nokia 6, as you can see right there. It's slightly less thick, but it's camera bump. Both of these phones, by the way, on the body have camera bumps. So just be aware, if you buy either one of these phones, you're getting a little camera bump. The Moto G5 Plus's camera bump seems to stick out just a little more than this guy, just because it's a big old circle and this is just a vertical camera right here. But back to the Moto G5 Plus, you do have an aluminum body here on the rear and plastic around the edges. So when you're actually holding the Moto G5 Plus, the plastic around the edges makes this phone feel more like a plastic phone. So, you know, if you feel the back, you will feel the aluminum. And the Motorola dimple is no longer present here on the Moto G5 Plus. We used to see a dimple, which was like a trademark thing for Moto devices, but now it's just this little piece of metal, which does feel a little premium, that metal piece right there, but no longer with the dimple, which I did like to rest my finger on prior Moto devices. So the Moto G5 Plus on the front is going to give you a fingerprint scanner, which is a little bit, you know, I would say easier to press than the one on the Nokia, easier to find. It's bigger, and I don't really like these skinny fingerprint scanners. Now that really is personal preference, but I think that the one on the Moto G5 Plus is definitely more enjoyable. Now on the right side, you do see yourself a volume rocker switch as well as a power button here, which kind of rests right where you would want it to rest here for the Moto G5 Plus. Now you do have your camera up here, your front-facing camera. We'll talk more about cameras later, but like I say, overall the build quality on the Moto G5 Plus I think is acceptable. I don't think it's the prettiest phone in the world, and I definitely think the Nokia 6 is the better designed phone. It looks better, it looks more premium, but the Moto G5 Plus, it's got quite a nice ergonomic feel. So if you got to think about this, do you want a, you know, premium feeling phone? I think the Nokia 6 is the better choice. If that's all you care about, you can leave right now. But if you want an ergonomic phone that's really good to hold in the hand, it feels nice in the palm, the Moto G5 Plus feels better in the hand in terms of ergonomics than the Nokia 6. Now in terms of pricey feel, expensive feel, the Nokia 6 feels better than the Moto G5 Plus. So that's how I'm going to sum this one up. So let's begin with displays. So we're going to start with the Nokia 6. So the Nokia 6, like I said earlier, does present to you a full HD panel. This thing is, you know, 403 pixels per inch across this panel. We have super clear text. This is IPS technology, so in-plane switching, meaning that if you put this thing on an angle, you could still see what you're reading. Now, this does come in handy when you're, like, say, example, laying in bed or something, and you got the phone laying on the bed like this, and you want to go ahead and read some text on an angle. That's where IPS technology is definitely useful. You don't really notice this anymore because almost every phone has it, but I also had no issues reading the Nokia 6 outdoors. It gets plenty bright, and I was very impressed with this display, to be honest with you guys, for this price point. One of the best displays in this price point. So the Nokia 6 is a win in terms of display. 16 million colors, no AMOLED here, but I don't think we really need it here on the Nokia 6. Great display around. I'm giving the display a solid 10 out of 10 because of its price point and what you get for that price point. Now the Moto G5 Plus does give you a little bit of a sharper resolution at 424 pixels per inch here across a 1080p 5.2 inch panel. So the panel on this guy is a little bit smaller, but you could say a little bit more compact, making this phone easier to use with one hand. Now you do have thicker bezels here on the Moto G5 Plus, quite a bit thicker. So I don't think it's as sleek looking in this display as the Nokia 6 display is over there, but they're both flat panels, so neither are groundbreaking in design here. Now this thing does have Corning Gorilla Glass 3, but so does the Nokia 6. I forgot to mention that. But in terms of color reproduction, I do think it's quite close to the Nokia 6, but to me it's a little duller than the Nokia 6. So I didn't quite enjoy the Moto G5 Plus's display quite as much as Nokia 6. I think the Nokia 6's colors are just a little bit more, I don't know, better calibrated. They just look better. So these displays are quite close, but if I had to pick one winner, I'm going with the Nokia 6. I think it's a little bit of a better looking display. The contrast ratio looks a little bit better, and this is kind of just your run-of-the-mill standard 1080p display here on the Moto G5 Plus, but very easy to read text on the G5 Plus as well. It's going to be no issue for most people, and I'm giving this one a solid 8 out of 10. Getting on the software, let's begin with software on the Nokia 6. So the Nokia 6 does run more of a stock Android based operating system. Now you can see going into the settings menu, they do have their support application here, and they went ahead and added an FM radio, and you can see the camera is slightly tweaked, but overall you're getting basically a bare bones Android experience. And if you want to know more about, how to use stock Android, there's plenty of articles and videos on the web. This is stock Android. It's just basically a clean version the way Google intended it. You do get the Google Assistant on here as well. And I would say the Nokia 6 does feel quite similar to a Google Pixel in terms of its software. So not much more to say than that. You're going to get all your Google services here on Nokia. Nokia left this one pretty clean, as they used to do on their Windows phones. And I'm going to say software is very, very enjoyable here on the Nokia 6. Works pretty great. Performance we're going to talk about a little bit later, but in terms of the software itself, it's pretty great here on the Nokia 6. I'm going to give it a solid 9 out of 10. Switching gears back to the Moto G5 Plus. On the Moto G5 Plus, you do get more of a Moto-fied stock Android. So both are very clean, look very close to, vanilla Android, but Moto does have a few more enhancements on top of it, such as the clear background in this tray. They have their own camera app that opens with a flick of the wrist like that. You can go ahead and take pictures. This is a different camera UI, but both have their own camera UIs. I'm just saying that the icons, there's a few tweaks to the icons on the Moto series of device, making it not quite a stock Android device, but pretty close nonetheless. It's still close to stock Android. But the Moto feature enhancements that come with a Moto device make me think that the Moto G5 Plus has the more enjoyable software. So I do like the clean vanilla feel of the Nokia device, but I do like these enhancements. They're very minor enhancements, but they're very functional enhancements to the Moto G5 Plus. You got one button nav, chop twice for a flashlight, twist to capture, swipe to shrink the screen, pick up to stop ringing. I mean, these are useful features here for the Moto G5 Plus. And you can even put home button on the screen, or you can just use this physical home button here for the Moto G5 Plus. So overall, you're going to get a very clean stock Android-like experience on the Moto G5 Plus with some functional enhancements that Moto throws in. And I think these make it enough to recommend the Moto G5 Plus for those software people out there who really care a lot about smooth software. The Moto G5 Plus runs better than the Nokia 6 and I think has more functional features. So if I had to pick one of these just for the software alone, I'm going with the Moto G5 Plus, and I'm giving it a solid 9 out of 10 in the software department. So speaking about the storage, the Nokia 6 does come with 32 gigabytes of storage out of the box, which is, I think, plenty enough considering that you are going to have the cloud storage, unlimited photos with Google, and you're also going to be able to expand the memory up to 256 gigs here on a Nokia 6. So storage is no issue on the Nokia 6. I mean, the storage write speeds aren't going to be as fast as premium devices, but still, you got cloud storage, 32 gigs on board, as well as expandable memory. Storage is no issue here for the Nokia 6. Now for the Moto G5 Plus, you do also have 32 gigs of storage as well as expandable memory on this one as well, and Google Photos on this guy as well. So they're pretty even Steven when it comes to the storage. So if you're picking up one of these based on storage, you're getting about the same storage. I think the Nokia 6 offers you just a little bit more because Moto throws in their Moto features. So if you want the most potential storage, eking out every last bit, the Nokia 6 gives you a little bit more out of the box in terms of its internal storage, but the Moto G5 Plus can be expanded just like the Nokia 6 over there. So I'm calling them pretty much even in terms of the storage, and I wouldn't decide either one of these based on storage. They're both going to give you plenty for this price point. All right, so let's get into an area I think a lot of us want to really know about these phones, and that is the camera department. So I've shot a lot of photos on both the Nokia 6 and the Moto G5 Plus. To make this short, let's just tell you which camera is better from my experience. The Moto G5 Plus to me is the better camera because it can shoot in 4K video. Now for photos, I think the Nokia 6 shoots pretty nice photos, but I think the Moto G5 Plus just does a little bit better than the Nokia 6 even in that department. So let's go into the camera, for example, here on the Nokia 6. And you can see it takes quite a while to open. This is the software right here. It's dead simple. It does give you, panoramic beauty modes here, and you can go ahead and change the resolution here. Very simple to use. Compos. You do have watermarks as well for the Nokia 6, but the Nokia 6 is just a little slower to take pictures. It's a little bit slower to hit the shutter for video. And the camera overall performs okay. It gives you pretty nice pictures, if you're in good lighting. But the Moto G5 Plus, in my opinion, it just shoots better video and photos than that phone. So you can go ahead and open the Moto G5 Plus by double tapping or flick of the wrist here, and it focuses faster. It has a nice brightness slider right here in the software, and in good lighting, like I say, you can get very nice pictures here on the Moto G5 Plus. Now, they're not the best in the world, but they're definitely more enjoyable in my experience than what I found on the Nokia 6. Now, the Moto G5 Plus video actually looks quite good in 4K if you, like I say, shoot in good lighting. Now, both can shoot in HDR, but don't be fooled by the 16 megapixel resolution on the Nokia 6 versus the 12 megapixel resolution here on the Moto G5 Plus. You do get a better value here because, again, you could shoot in 4K, which basically future-proofs your videos if you are shooting videos here. Now, like we said, storage ain't going to be a problem with either of them, but it comes down to this. If you want a more natural, palette and more, I would say, realistic looking photo, go with the Moto G5 Plus. If you want a more, I would say, contrasty looking photo, a little bit punchier in the colors, go with the Nokia 6. It does provide that a little bit more than the Moto G5 Plus, but the Moto G5 Plus gets closer to reality than the Nokia 6 does. So that's my assessment on these cameras if you're deciding to pick one of these up based on camera. So are there any extra features on the Nokia 6? And yeah, there's a couple. Like we mentioned earlier, you do get the FM radio built right into the Nokia 6. You obviously need a headset to use this thing. And you do get their support application built in, which should come with pretty much every smartphone, Nokia Mobile Care. And if you go into settings, you also get the Dolby surround sound system in here, Dolby Atmos. So let's go to sound, and you can see Dolby surround sound included here in the Nokia 6. It works pretty well. In addition to that, you do have 2 SIMs you could set up here on the Nokia 6. So this is a pretty nice phone. It has a few extra features, and it's nice to see that we do have a fingerprint scanner included on this phone. You don't have to put a fingerprint scanner at this price point, but it's nice to see that, and I think most phone manufacturers are going to be doing that going forward. So on the Moto G5 Plus, we kind of already talked about the extra features, but going into settings, let's see if we could find any more. And you do have Motorola privacy in here, as well as, let's see, that's pretty much it here. We do have the Motorola features included here on this guy. And again, you do have some Motorola help icon in here somewhere. I'm not sure exactly where it's at. There it is, device help. So you get that. Plus, you can move, like I said, you can move the icons around, like the home button icon, like the multitasking switch key, the back key, or you can use the home button. So in terms of extra features, they're both pretty bare bones. They don't give you a lot of extra, but I think the Dolby surround sound is a nice touch here, where I think the Moto, functionality features are a nice touch here. Personally, I don't think that Dolby sounds amazing here. I've tried it out. So I think the Moto's functionality with its Moto features, enhancements are a little bit better than the Nokia 6. So another area I think a lot of people want to know about is the battery life, and this is one area where I think both of these phones are pretty stellar. They both offer, over or about 3,000 milliamp hour batteries, exactly 3,000 milliamp. They're the same battery size on both of these phones, and in the real world, I've found that both of them perform pretty much the same. I think the Moto can go just a little bit further than the Nokia 6, but one thing I like about the Moto is it comes with a fast charger in the box, and believe me guys, the Moto G5 Plus charges up really quickly with its turbo power. So the Moto G5 Plus gives you slightly better battery life, only slightly though, maybe 30 minutes to an hour on screen time more than the Nokia 6, smaller screen, and it gives you turbo power. So battery people want longevity and fast charging, you got to go with the Moto G5 Plus. It's the better phone here for that. And let's talk about the call quality now. So the Nokia 6 actually offers quite good call quality. I've actually enjoyed the, talking to people on this phone. It's a pretty flat phone, so it goes up to your face pretty easily. Reception has held well, and it's an unlocked phone, so it works on a lot of carriers. This is an unlocked phone as well, and I think it just did pretty great in my, cell service, experience. So Nokia 6 is a good mobile phone for, calls and stuff like that, but the Moto G is one of the best out there. Motorola radios are just great, and this conversation people have been talking about for a long time is, they're not quite as important as it used to be, because pretty much all phones have pretty good radios in them now. You can talk to people pretty easily, but the Moto G5 Plus remains one of the better budget phones for call quality experience. So I'm going to give this one pretty much a draw. Nokia and Motorola are both pretty much legendary when it comes to mobile smartphone or cell phones, so they both do pretty great when it comes comes to call quality, and I wouldn't make my decision based on call quality between both of these. They're both pretty stellar. So I'm gonna wrap this up with a price to value ratio, topic. So what we're gonna talk about in this last section in my conclusions is the price to the value. So do you get which phone gives you more for your money? So this one's tricky because the Moto G5 Plus gives you slightly better performance, slightly I say, but when it comes down to it, it's better performance than the Nokia 6. And we didn't talk much about that, but the Nokia 6 is not the best performer in the world, but it still performs good due to the optimization of Android 7.1.1 Nougat. And another thing is the Nokia 6 comes with a later version of Android out of the box. This comes with 7.0 Nougat out of the box. They're about the same though, not much difference. Both offer great battery optimizations and a few new features over Android Marshmallow. But I would say for price to value, the Nokia 6 is not the best value because of the processor they put in the phone. And I know this conversation, a couple other YouTubers have talked about it, but I take that for face value. I get the phone, I use it, and I can tell you right now, it's felt. You pick up the Nokia 6, you start using it, you can tell that they went the way of a cheaper processor with the 430. Yes, it's octa-core. Yes, it has 3 to 4 gigs of RAM, but this thing is just not cutting it when we look at what's on the market for the same price point. The Moto G5 Plus, 625 CPU with 3 to 4 gigs of RAM, and this thing feels buttery smooth, close to a flagship, honestly. Whereas I can tell using this thing, this is not a flagship phone. I could tell it's a mid-range phone, which you can't really tell with the Moto G5 Plus. Now, if you want to flip this around, picking up the Moto G5 Plus physically, the build, you can tell this is not a premium phone because of the plastics around the sides. And honestly, I don't think the design looks as premium as some of the $600-700 phones on the market. Whereas the Nokia 6, on the flip side, this thing feels and looks like a premium smartphone. So what you're really choosing between here is looks in physical body or internal specifications and optimization. The Moto G5 Plus is the better phone for use, like with software, with speed, with things like that. The Nokia 6 is the better phone for looks and build. So that's how I'm going to break this down. If I had to choose one phone, looks and build gets old, so I'm going with the Moto G5 Plus. I'd rather have fast software because it's what I use that matters more than how it looks. But that's just me. You might be someone who says, I don't care, it's fast enough, that phone is sexy, I want the Nokia 6, and I would totally agree with you there, and you can go ahead and pick that one up. Links to both of these are going to be down below in the description area of this video. I hope this video helped you out in making the decision which mobile is for you. And if you enjoyed it, do me a favor, click the like button for me. Share this with somebody who's looking for a mid-range smartphone you think could benefit from checking these two out. These are two of the best you can buy right now around a $200 price point. And don't forget to check out the Alcatel Idol 5S. That's a great value as well. And anyway, Nick here helping you to master your technology. Be sure to be well. I will catch you all in the next episode. Thank you for watching, and peace.